Hi, I'm David Manti, and welcome to a new episode of the Today in Manufacturing podcast. With me this week are Jeff Reinke and Anna Wells. We each have more than 15 years of experience covering the manufacturing industry. Every week, we take our 5 most popular stories on our websites like manufacturing.net and Industrial Equipment News and discuss the implications they have on the industry going forward. Before we get started, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You can also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach any of us at Jeff, David, or Anna at IEN.com with email the podcast in the subject line. You can also subscribe to our daily newsletter. Make sure you get it delivered to your inbox first. And you can subscribe to us on YouTube at IEN Magazine so you can join us every Thursday when we go live. Jeff, happy Halloween. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, David. How about you?
I'm doing good. And I'm glad that we decided to not dress up for this.
Was that ever on the table?
No, then that was us deciding to never dress up for this episode.
That's a good call.
Yeah. I mean, but if we did dress up for this episode, what would you go as?
Oh boy. I'm trying to think, what was my favorite growing up, my favorite costume? Probably the football player thing. I was pretty standard, I guess.
Like we make the decision last night to all of a sudden come dressed up and you get the costume toed out and you're just like, it's gonna still fit. Just come in with a teenager.
Well, the football jerseys there, you have the benefit of the fact that they at one point had to go over shoulder pads, which when we were in high school were enormous.
Oh yeah.
So I could still get into, actually my daughters have my high school football jerseys. They wore them, I think, for Red and White Day at school or something like that.
Oh, that's cool. Very cool. Anna, happy Halloween. How you doing today?
Thanks. Great. Mm-hmm. As far as what I would wear.
Yeah. What would you wear?
So we had a Halloween party in our neighborhood over the weekend, and I thought it was going to be cold, so I tossed on. My husband has this Chewbacca costume, and
oh man, that would be great.
And I got so many compliments on it, which is hilarious because it's really just like a giant blanket with the satchel. That's all it is. It's just like you're just head to toe brown.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, that's great, Chewbacca. And I'm like, I know, right? Like, it just really was more like a coat for me. But
months of planning.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes, you can just keep it simple. Mm-hmm. And it's, I remember so many of those Halloweens that were so cold.
Oh, I know. It's always so cold in Wisconsin.
Yeah. And 2 days, almost 90. Today, windy, maybe 50. So a lot of the kids with the 3 sweatshirts on underneath their costumes tonight. We'll see.
Do your best. Yeah,
we'll do our best.
You would be a Ninja Turtle. I'm guessing there's no way around that.
Oh no, we it's a longer story, but my brothers and I would go as Ninja Turtles, and we would win multiple competitions because that was back when you made them all by hand. And my mother was an artist, so it was just like, my mother's more talented than yours. And then I would not share the spoils of the victory with her. She's like, "Can I have some of that?" I'm like, "No, this is all for me."
There you go.
Before we get started with our first story this week, we have a word from our sponsor, Oracle NetSuite. This week's episode is sponsored by Oracle NetSuite. Going live with KPIs and turning those metrics into real results can be complex, confusing, and challenging. Fortunately, many of the issues have been encountered by others before, and practical solutions already exist. This new field guide outlines field-tested advice on selecting and tackling common performance measurement problems you will encounter in a simple, structured way. Download Maximizing Your KPI Results now. Our first story this week, actually in one of my other favorites, Crocodile Dundee. That one was just... I love that costume. It was real simple, you know? Get yourself a jacket, it was a good excuse to get a lot of things adorned with alligator teeth.
Yeah.
My buddy and I went as the Road Warriors tag team one year. Painted our faces. That was pretty cool too.
Yeah, we had a wrestler. My brothers and I had a wrestler year once. One is the Ultimate Warrior. That was great, but that was a cold one. All right, our first story this week. Jury hands $5.2 billion verdict in bottled water liver damage lawsuit. Finally, an update on a story we first covered more than 3 years ago. A Nevada jury last week handed down a $5.2 billion award against former Las Vegas-based AffinityLifestyles.com Inc., the bottled water company behind the Real Water brand. The jury says the company is responsible for causing customer liver damage before pulling products from store shelves. After a 12-day trial, the jury awarded $230 million in compensatory damages and $5 billion with a B in punitive damages to Hunter Brown and other plaintiffs. Real Water's attorneys expect the brand's insurance company to fight paying damages because the company has filed for bankruptcy. This isn't the company's first loss. It was hit for $3.1 billion in June, $130 million in February, and $228 million in October 2023. If you recall, which you might not because that was episode 17, and we are now on 194. But if you recall, tests of Real Water found hydrazine, a chemical used in rocket fuel, which likely was introduced during treatment before bottling. The company's defense attorneys say the company was unintentionally negligent, not reckless, because it didn't know hydrazine was in the water and didn't know to test for it. Jeff, this case brings more closure for the plaintiffs, but it looks like an unlikely payout for those harmed by Real Water here.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, that phrase, unintentionally negligent, not reckless.
Yeah.
That one really caught my attention there, and just trying to understand how could that really be rationalized. But then when you start sort of looking into a little bit of hydrazine and where it comes from, I mean, it's not natural in water.
Yeah.
Now, this was a bottled water product, and you're talking about water. So how, if it wasn't in the water to begin with, how does it get there? It kind of blows your mind a little bit. And I know this was alkalized water, so they're trying to do some different stuff. So I found online, ChemJobber actually speculated a little bit how this could have actually been created in the water product to begin with.
Okay.
And they're saying, okay, so they started out with Las Vegas municipal water, has no hydrazine in it. So if they would have stopped there, it would have been okay. But it was then carbon filtered, treated with reverse osmosis, UV exposed, ozonated, potassium chloride added, electrolysis processed, potassium hydroxide, potassium bicarbonate, and magnesium chloride added. Then it was put in the bottle.
Some extra processes.
That's a lot of stuff where things can go wrong. So when they talk about unintentionally negligent but reckless, I think there's also negligence there. I guess I don't think ignorance can be bliss in that situation. They can talk about not having to test for it. No bottled water maker does test for it. The FDA doesn't ask you to test for hydrazine because if it's water, it shouldn't be there to begin with.
So that was my biggest thing with the story is, can't you just test for anything that's not water? Just like, okay, here's what water is, and we want to run the panel for not water.
Well, and they do want to alkalize it because it's supposed to have all these health benefits that go with it, which I can appreciate. But, man, talk about overthinking, overcomplicating a product. I don't know, that just kind of blew me away in terms of what they were doing to create their own nightmare, essentially.
It was ultra-processed water.
Yeah.
You know, in a fight against ultra-processed foods, it was ultra-processed water. And, we heard all those stories. Remember when bottled water first became a thing and everyone thought it was this really intricate process, and then they went to some of these bottling manufacturers and it was just people filling bottles from the tap?
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
It's, but Anna, it is surprising. And maybe because this was quite a few years ago, maybe it kind of preceded that trend to get away from ultra-processed everything. But the amount of procedures that water went through before it was bottled for, let me get this straight because I'm going to mess it up, AffinityLifestyles.com Inc. It's wild to me. And it is a reminder that, every time you introduce a new process, something new to the process, there's potential for error.
Yeah, for sure. And I took the exact same issue with this as you did, Jeff, which is if the defense attorneys are trying to cast the company as unintentionally negligent. However, this process is so outrageous. I mean, it's like a 12-step process. I found that article on ChemJobber as well, and they cited an FDA inspector who said that they believed the electrolysis step was where they had inadvertently created this hydrazine. They also added that electrochemistry can be very unpredictable. Well, yeah, probably, right? I'd say that's probably reason enough to not engage in this process to improve water that in fact did the opposite. And, unfortunately, I think there's a lot of risk in the food industry because people's lives are at stake, but it has to be that way. And I think fooling with a product that's available in nature and is a daily need for people of all ages, people of any health status, you better know what you're doing. That it's not a viable defense to say, sorry, we didn't know that was going to happen, but we sold a ton of this water. Like, no, you got to know.
Yeah. Electrochemistry can be very unpredictable. Is that the understatement of the year?
Yeah. According to this report, they said that electrochemistry is a very niche discipline, and there's a lot that's unknown about it, even amongst the experts within that field.
Yeah.
But again, I think that just reinforces the point of you can't just, it makes them look like charlatans almost to be like, we're going to
snake oil water.
Right. Like better water. And, it's $2 a bottle or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
Something that you can get from your faucet. It just seems like the responsibility that you carry there was maybe not fully realized.
I read an article from the Las Vegas Review-Journal, and one of the things that I found a little infuriating was that defense attorneys actually attempted to settle this most recent case for $6.9 million.
Ooh.
That's all they wanted, $6.9 million. The defense attorneys, but Real Water's insurance company wanted to move forward with the trial, likely because maybe a larger settlement in a bankruptcy court is just, if you're not going to pay $6.9 million, what's $5 billion,
Yeah, I think the other part that was interesting in the court's findings, too, is the compensatory damages. It was $230 million there potentially. And now, because they're not sure what the insurance company is actually going to be able to handle, they're going after a couple of instrumentation companies.
Really?
Hanna Instruments and Milwaukee Instruments, because both of their products were used in the testing of the water. They're saying that they were also potentially liable here as well. Now, they wouldn't be included in that $5 billion portion.
Right. It'd be separate.
It'd be the compensatory stuff, which is stuff like lost wages, pain and suffering, things like that. So,
really?
Yeah.
How does that?
I don't.
Do you know how that's determined?
They were listed as defendants.
Oh, they were defendants in this case.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
But if the company didn't know to test for it, it's not like they were using that equipment to test for it and it was defective.
Exactly.
So I have a hard time seeing that fly, but
I do too. But it would just really suck if these two instrumentation companies were looped into this simply because they were purchased and being utilized when, like, as you said, it wasn't their fault, but now because they were listed there, I mean, $230 million, these aren't huge corporate entities here.
Yeah.
These are some smaller companies that would be really hit hard.
Well, and that happens all the time where a company sells equipment. It doesn't necessarily know what application it's going into. I mean, we saw that happen a ton when cannabis started being legalized. All this equipment started being sold into this industry, and no one knew how they were using it. No one knew how to use it. But that's a really interesting point I just don't know how they could be liable for that. Other than chasing down everyone using your equipment and being like, hey, you read the manual?
That's their argument as well. So hopefully it sticks for them there. I don't think that would be fair to loop them in.
This lawyer represents another 62 plaintiffs across multiple lawsuits. Another trial is going to start in February. And just to reinforce how bad this was, I mean, we're not just talking about, bad water, poor tasting water. We're like people were in comas. Mm-hmm. People had and have toxic liver disease. It was bad for a lot of people.
Life-changing.
All right. Our next most popular story this week. Who doesn't love a good cheddar caper? Con artist steals 22 million. No, that ain't right. A con artist stole 22 metric tons of award-winning cheddar. A con artist who posed as a wholesale distributor for a major French retailer recently ripped off an artisanal cheese dealer, Neil's Yard Dairy, in London and made off with 22 metric tons. That's nearly 50,000 pounds of award-winning cheddar. That was worth nearly $400,000. Scotland Yard and international authorities are still looking for the culprits. The heist includes some 1,000 wheels of cloth-wrapped cheese from 3 different makers, Hafford Welsh's Organic Cheddar, Westcomb's Cheddar, and Pitchfork's Cheddar. International cheesemongers have been told to be on high alert. So, Jeff, eyes up for any 22 or 52-pound blocks of cheddar that you see at a price point that's maybe too good to be true.
Yeah, this was crazy. And I mean, you don't want to blame the victim here in any way, but boy, maybe
But you're gonna.
maybe help that verification process before you let somebody walk out the door with, $400,000 worth of cheese.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Hey, I'm here for the cheese.
Yeah.
Sure, here. Let me help you
an
load
ID
it.
or something.
Yeah.
Check that out a little bit because you're not just selling them some, craft singles here.
Yeah, any simple auction wants an ID and a form of payment up front.
Yeah, so that's harsh. But it was cool to see that this dairy is still paying all these local cheesemakers for all this and stuff, and you feel bad because this is obviously going to ratchet up prices. This is something when we talk about theft and shoplifting, everybody ends up feeling the ramifications of it. Cheese, oddly enough, did you know is the most highly stolen food product?
Really?
That's according to Time Magazine, a couple other sources. They're saying
Cheese is the most stolen food?
Shoplifted and stolen food.
I had no idea.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Like
why that would
at any level?
That's what they said. It's like a 4% of the total produced actually ends up being stolen on an annual basis.
Whoa.
I had no idea.
Is
Crazy.
it-
Why would? Yeah.
I don't know.
It's so plentiful here.
You'd think
that-
people just pocket candy bars.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I had no idea how lucrative the black market cheddar market was.
well, and here's another interesting fact.
Okay.
Because everybody's looking for cheese info.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why they come to this podcast.
What
They wanna
other
know more
cheese
about
facts
cheese.
do you have?
This was only the second largest cheese caper
Oh.
that we've experienced.
What was the largest?
Well, David, it's funny you should ask. It just so happens if you go to cheeseprofessor.com,
Okay.
Not it.
that is a thing. That is
Okay.
a thing.
Bookmark.
In 2015, an armed gang was arrested in northern Italy for basically stealing $875,000 worth of Parmesan.
Okay.
Now, they didn't do it all at once. They did it over the course of like a couple of months, but these were like armed gangs
Wow.
that just periodically stole over 2,000 wheels of Parmesan cheese. They did eventually find them and arrested them. And there's like some other ones on here too that are crazy. And in all of these instances, they did eventually find the thief.
Okay.
And they were stuck with they were able to get the cheese back.
Yeah.
So hopefully that happens here as well.
In a statement, Neil's Yard Dairy said, quote, "The high monetary value of these cheeses likely made them a particular target for the thieves." I mean, Anna, you think?
Yeah.
Just anything that's worth anything will be targeted by thieves.
Right.
Yeah. Remember, didn't we, maybe it was last year, where someone tried to rip off a truck carrying dimes? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is, right?
Okay.
So
There's something called the Cheese Professor out there, the class you always wanted to take. Oh, cheeseprofessor.com. Yeah. Sorry, I had no idea. I'm just it's great to see it.
Jeff's number one source for
Prove
cheese
it. Yeah,
information.
the top source for your cheese information.
I'm a subscriber.
Yeah. Anna, it's crazy because we've come a long way when it comes to loss and theft prevention. It's wild that someone can still make off with 22 and 52 pound blocks of cheese.
It is. And, I think more and more people are coming around to the idea of like how to use technology to protect some of these goods that you wouldn't have done in the past. Right. I was surprised too, kind of looking into food and how much food is stolen, because you think, you have just a much shorter time span with which to
move it.
You got to move it.
Yeah.
So Food Dive says that the higher food prices are, the more often these types of thefts take place. So they're talking about like food that's stolen off freighters and sold on the black market, which apparently happens regularly. What?
Wow.
More so now, I guess, with food prices being high. So, if you're looking at cheese being incredibly valuable, I think there's that's something that any food company is going to want to be on the lookout for. One thing that I thought worth mentioning, and we covered this a few years back in, I think, IEN. It was about a technology that was trying to help track. Well, you mentioned Parmesan before. So there's a whole counterfeit market for foods like Parmesan cheese. At issue is the fact that in Italy, there's like some cheesemakers that are responsible for like 95% or 100% or something of Parmigiano Reggiano cheese, the real Parmesan cheese. So they're saying that they're competing with like multi-million dollars worth of fake products. People saying that they're Parmesan cheese when they're really not.
Yeah.
Sometimes those products have, they said, even like weird errant ingredients in them, like sawdust and fillers and things like that.
Oh, that's skimpflation right there.
Yeah, that's your skimpflation in action. So anyway, there's a technology that has been developed where you can actually insert tracking chips into the rinds of cheese, and they give each wheel of cheese its own unique and trackable code, and then the chip is actually edible. So they can figure out where it is at any time, and then really there's no, disposal of it. It just kind of goes away. So I know that that's the type of tech that is going to be for not for everyone, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure that there's cost associated with that. It's going to be for people with a few more resources. The smaller producers maybe don't have the money to spend on stuff like that. However, I do think the very existence of technology like that does serve as a deterrent a little bit, because it's not exactly a foregone conclusion that you can get away with it.
Yeah. Just if you have maybe $400,000 worth of any product, throw a chip in there.
Throw a chip in there to keep
even the cloth covering it.
You don't need the rooster. Now you put a chip in it.
Just put a chip
put
on
a chip in it. And then when you find it, what do you do with it though? Like once you lose the chain of custody, once there's a break in the chain of custody, can you sell it?
Oh, I have no idea. Or is it, like if they recover this, it must be destroyed?
Yeah, I don't know.
So
I've never had cheese stolen before.
No.
I have no idea.
You haven't chipped your cheese?
No, I never have.
Neil's Yard Dairy has paid all three of these cheesemakers in full. They said that's an effort to support small local cheese businesses. To put this in perspective, a wedge of this Hafford cheddar is about $16 or about $17 for 9.5 ounces of it. You can get 16 ounces of Kraft Singles for $5. It's actually kind of cheaper than I thought.
Kraft Singles.
I mean, yeah, it's not really cheese, but I was trying to think of something that was universal, that people would universally recognize.
Not apples to apples.
I still eat Kraft Singles.
Yeah, I mean,
God, you guys.
I also
So unclassified or underclass when it comes to my cheese preferences.
undignified. I mean, this is also 100% the plot of the next Pink Panther movie, right? Like, I could just see Jacques Cousteau trying to run down this cheddar thief in a very bumbling,
You could have some fun
way.
with cheese wheels in some way, shape, or form, rolling down the street.
Oh my goodness! Wind up at that competition where they roll the cheese wedges down that steep hill, and people like the first to the bottom wins, but they wind up breaking everything. Have you ever seen that competition? It's like it's one of those weirdest sporting events in the world where I can't remember the community, but they take cheese wheels, roll them down a steeper hill than you're thinking of now, and people just race down, never make it on their feet, just tumbling end over end. That's where these wheels are going to wind up. Black market wheels. You gotta look up this competition though. It is wild.
Cheese wheel racing.
Yeah, it's I'll figure it out. But man, worth your time.
Human beings are competitive.
Our next most popular story: eVTOL aircraft maker runs out of money, stopping operations. Lilium, a German maker of eVTOLs, is ceasing operations for its two subsidiaries. The company is out of money and has no way to pay its existing debts. So, the company will file for insolvency and apply for self-administration proceedings. 7 years ago, Lilium conducted its first test flight, and it was just 2 years away from planned deliveries. A recent list of potential customers included 100 jets for Saudi Arabia and another 20 for UrbanLink, an American advanced air mobility company. Last year, Lilium reported that it reportedly had $205 million on hand, which was enough to continue operations through 2023. Earlier this month, the company found out that Germany's budget committee wouldn't give it $54 million in guaranteed funding. Lilium could live on, but it will likely be under a new company following an asset sale. The timing is unfortunate. The company made it nearly a decade, and the FAA just issued new regulations that will allow widespread operation of power lift aircraft. It looks like it is one less player in the market, which also includes Joby Aviation and Archer Aviation, who seem to be in healthier positions. Joby recently received $500 million from Toyota. Archer secured an order for 200 aircraft from United Airlines. Anna, is this more unfortunate timing or natural selection?
In my opinion, it's a bit of both, probably. Yeah. This is the type of technology that just has a very long runway on it between startup and okay, yep. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And actually, taking off.
Yep. Almost had our first podcast spit take there.
So I was looking on, it was a business advisory firm called Rivian, and they had a brutal takedown of this situation on their site, and they used the headline of "Better, Faster, Cheaper, Pick Any Two. eVTOL manufacturer Lilium files for insolvency." I was like, interesting. But anyway, what they talked about in their article, which I think makes a lot of sense, is how certain businesses, they have technical hurdles, they need a tremendous amount of funding, they have enormous risk behind their business model, and the eVTOL market is one of those, right? They have all these near-term technical challenges. They have all kinds of regulatory issues to deal with. It's just a lot to get off the ground. And then when you factor in the autonomous factor that I think all of these companies are trying to do eventually, at least.
Yeah.
You can only take pre-orders for so long and, series fund over and over and over before somebody wants to see some money, you know, and they've been at this for 10 years. And I don't think that it's, that they're doing anything wrong. I think if you look at how long it took to develop the first airplane, it was like hundreds of years of people trying to do that, right? And I know that we have a lot of tech behind us on this, but it really is a new field for aerospace and aviation. And so, it's a long road to get to market and then to scale and then to profit. And unfortunately, you just can't. There's only so long you can do this before you have to turn a profit.
Yeah.
And if they're not doing that and they've been in business for 10 years, you kind of wonder how long those investors are willing to wait around. We've seen it in many other industries.
Yeah.
It is what it is, I guess.
But it was, in other industries, we've seen people pushing cars down hills or trucks down hills. Mm-hmm. We've seen a lot of smoke and mirrors. One thing about Lilium, they had an aircraft that could fly, and it was a really cool looking aircraft. I actually put a link to some of the footage from a most recent event where they were showing off their most recent version of it, and it is a great looking aircraft. So it's unfortunate, but you understand the realization. Jeff, we talk about this all the time. Any startup is going to struggle. You're launching a new company in an entirely new category that when they started 7 years ago wasn't even kind of legal to fly. You're behind several 8 balls in order to get your company off the ground. Sorry. Just going to keep happening now. And I would say Lilium gave it its best shot. I will say when you look at this aircraft, though, someone's going to come and scoop this up, this IP.
David, you're going to be a great kids coach because you're always ready with like that participation trophy here.
Yeah.
Lilium, they tried so hard. They did so good. Got to be happy for them.
I might be the last person to ever give out a participation trophy. I guess I can do it for the business community. That could be our annual awards, the Today in Manufacturing Participation Awards. Yes. You tried. Here you go.
Well, first of all, if Lordstown can go through like 3 different iterations of ownership, we may not have heard the last of Lilium here.
Potentially,
either.
Yeah.
So you never know. I think what's kind of happening here, I think this is, you mentioned natural selection. I think this is market maturity. You referenced that as well, Anna. We're probably at about half dozen or so real key players now in trying to develop the eVTOL and get it going. And I think this is going to happen. Now, I don't want to be that cold about it when you're talking about 1,000 people's jobs being impacted here if this place shuts down or whatever the case may be. But in this type of market, these risks are inherent to it, and this is going to happen, unfortunately. It feels to me when we look at this marketplace, and we are now at a really interesting sort of inflection point where we've got regulation, we've got working prototypes, we're getting very close to actually the eVTOL becoming a real thing here. Mm-hmm. I feel like the money has sort of picked 2 companies. You mentioned them.
Yeah.
With Joby and with Archer. When you look at Joby, in addition to Toyota, they've also got support from Delta Airlines.
Yeah.
When you look at Archer, they've got Stellantis behind them. They've got United behind them. Archer is actually also owned by a huge global private equity company, Cinven. So they've got the money.
Yeah.
And you can talk about great engineering and innovative ideas and having the people and everything else. At the end of the day, to create a new market, to create a brand new product, you need money.
You need that runway.
It feels like these two. I was trying so hard to avoid all those puns.
But it fits.
They're too easy.
They're perfect. But I just feel like these two are the ones that are, at the end of the day, those are the ones that are going to be there.
That we're going to see. So self-administration, I looked into it. It's a unique part of German bankruptcy law. It allows a company to actually continue operating as a business during the proceedings. Of course, management would retain control and continue operating the business under the supervision of a custodian. However, a court has to approve the request, and Lilium, as we know, doesn't have the money, doesn't have the operating expenses, or can't pay for it. One part of this that was kind of crazy to me was that, they basically lost everything because Germany backed out of that $54 million that they kind of put up as possible funding. They had a loan guarantee from Bavaria that kind of covered the other half of it, and that went away as soon as Germany pulled their money off the table. So they were so close. And another part that's crazy is, so Lilium prides itself as being the first eVTOL aircraft with zero operating emissions, and it's wild to me that the people that voted against it was Germany's environmentalist political party called the Greens. They were the ones that voted against funding. And it was, supposedly this green, forward-thinking, zero-emission type aircraft. And but I guess maybe why I'm so optimistic, maybe why I'm giving away these participation trophies to Lilium is because they might have life outside of Germany. Lilium was in talks with France for significant financial support in exchange for a battery factory and an assembly line in the country. Maybe now, in exchange for a little bit more, you can get a whole company as well.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But I mean, you guys saw the plane, right? It's nothing that any of us would ever fly in outside of maybe like.
Do you think all the designs for these things look that dramatically different? To me, they look very, very similar.
I mean, between Lilium and Joby, very, very different. Because Joby is more of that quadcopter sort of thing, where Lilium, I think, has the turbines in the front wing. But I can't think of Archers off the top of my head, even though we've covered them so many times.
I don't know. To me, they look kind of the same.
Yeah. I mean,
they're cool. I mean, look, I'm not like talking down. That's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
But
it's just, Hey, one EV, they're all the same. I got you.
I mean, do you think that just because it's a green product, it's necessary? I think that I could see why people might vote against that. Like, there's much more impactful ways to spend money than like ferrying around people who are normally in helicopters or whatever. I mean, like, it's not.
I agree.
Probably not priority one.
I know it's not priority one. I just saw it as a progressive aircraft, a progressive product for the aerospace industry. I thought the idea that it was, zero emissions. I thought it checked a lot of boxes for that potential funding. I thought it was a little surprising, but you're right. I mean, however much money it was going to be. So let's say if 54 million could probably do a lot of good in other places. So producer Eric, what is the name of this race? Or producer Alex, does it say?
Was this the cheese wheel
This
thing?
is the cheese race. Okay.
Cheese chase?
The cheese chase? All right. Yeah. Oh, the Cooper's Hill cheese rolling. Here, this is the people flying down the hill chasing this now that we know stolen high-end cheese.
What?
But yeah, they just go for it.
Anna, where are you less likely to find yourself? The cheese races or on an eVTOL?
Dead heat on that. I don't like. They just look like they were dislocating their shoulders, all of them. What were they?
Lots of breaks.
What were they doing?
I don't know if it's I don't know.
I didn't see any cheese though. There were,
the cheese. Yeah, cheese goes first.
Saw a lot of ankles going the wrong direction.
No, it's like a 30 for 30 or one of those short form sports documentaries about it. And so they interview the winner and a bunch of other participants after the race, and they're all bandaged in braces and breaks, and they're just like, worth it, can't wait to do it next year. Mm-hmm. All right, our next most popular story. Elon Musk says making a $25,000 EV is, quote, silly and pointless. About 4 years ago, Tesla CEO Elon Musk teased a potential $25,000 electric vehicle. Now, the eccentric entrepreneur is teasing the idea. On a recent earnings call, Musk called a regular $25,000 Tesla model pointless and silly. Musk said, quote, "It'll be completely at odds with what we believe." Tesla predicts a future auto industry that is almost entirely electric and autonomous. The future will be full of robo-taxis and robovans. The robo-taxi will actually be priced below $30,000 with incentives and allegedly start production in just 2 years. And Tesla has never missed a production deadline. Reports from just last year said Tesla was hard at work on a less expensive model made possible by the company's acclaimed gigacasting process. So, Anna, if it's silly and pointless now, we're going to see this thing just before or just after Christmas?
No, we're not.
We're not going to see it?
No.
Because it's silly and pointless. And there's no way that he's just setting the table for some big reveal.
No, I don't think that they have it.
Okay.
I think it's silly and pointless too, but I think for different reasons than Elon Musk has.
Oh, why is it silly and pointless for you?
Because it is ridiculous. That's a ridiculous price point. I always find it perplexing when companies make like cost promises on products that are not on the market yet.
Yeah.
That's outrageous. Like it, especially in automotive, like that requires so much development time, alignment of a lot of complex factors like labor and your supply chain. I said the same thing when Stellantis made a similar pledge earlier this year that they were going to build some sub 30K Jeep or yeah.
But I mean, this was more convincing, at least for me, because Tesla's that gigacasting process where they were building like a third of a car in, minutes. I don't know. They did a lot
with zero reliability issues or recalls.
Zero.
Oh, wait.
Over the air updates.
It was convincing to you?
I mean,
well, why didn't you buy one? Because it didn't happen.
It didn't exist.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
And it won't happen. It makes no sense to do this when this product is not available yet. And for Elon Musk to do this in September of 2020, a period of time where we were undergoing extreme volatility in so many areas, it just seemed like ridiculously short-sighted for a CEO. I didn't understand it then.
For a normal CEO.
Right.
Yeah.
Am I surprised that he's going back on this now? No. Mm-hmm. But I'm also sort of annoyed that he just is doing it so casually. Like this wasn't a mistake on his part, but oh yeah, we're an automation company now, guys. Mm-hmm. So we
catch up, guys.
Yeah, catch up. That would be ridiculous. Why would we even make a car?
They couldn't drive itself.
Yeah, that's it's not even a robot, so
we'll get to those robots.
It never made sense. And it never made sense to try to be the lowest cost provider in this industry that was not mature then, is still not really mature now. I just think you can't sell at a high enough volume to make that make sense. And I certainly I didn't feel like the growth trajectory either at that time was telling us that. I know that they were saying EVs are growing really quickly, but that was an emerging industry. So you can grow a lot and it's still not like you're selling at a scale where you can have such a low profit margin and still do well. I just don't see that. And I'm not an economist or I don't run an automotive company, but I still feel like that's pretty easy to see. I don't know. And now to just casually suggest that it doesn't align with your business model, true, it doesn't, but you just kind of decided last year that you were an automation company and I don't know. And thus far, that's also an unproven objective. It's just what you have said. Yeah. None of that stuff is available. So
I guess I would appreciate if his approach was a little bit, more sophisticated than Durr. Well,
I don't think Durr is a direct quote.
No. That's
it could have been, but it was not. No.
Yeah, just because it's not unlike him to take these crazy moonshots, and what's wild is that they have landed, and as a result, when he says something like that, people think it's legitimate. And I mean, there are reports that as recent as late last year, they were still working on it. So, I mean, I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden it was just no big deal. Like, you should have saw this coming. And it was surprising to me, but that's also why the way that he kind of just dismissed it, he was so dismissive of it being pointless and silly. That's why I feel like by the end of this year, we're going to see it.
But do you think that
At the end of this year?
Yeah. And he'll bring it out. He'll roll it out. It won't actually be
Push
a
it
car
out.
in there.
He'll,
Yeah.
like literally roll it out?
Yeah. Like the toilet paper rolls that are the axles will fall out from behind it.
Or cheese wheels?
Yeah.
you might be the only person on earth that thinks Elon Musk at Tesla is going to underpromise and overdeliver. That's like the exact opposite of what he does. He's had so many misses, so many abandoned projects. The Plaid is dead. He's taken all these deposits on Roadsters like 7 years ago that he's never delivered.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Oh, no,
well,
no,
it's
yeah.
not like you, I mean.
Yeah, but I mean,
do you disagree?
No, I don't disagree. But I mean, in terms of moonshots, like he revolutionized the space industry.
SpaceX, not Tesla.
Yes, I know. But also with Tesla, he kind of created and revolutionized a small portion of the automotive industry.
He absolutely did.
Yes. And so to say that he was going to attack a sliver of the market like that, I think is not out of bounds. I find them still capable of doing so.
He is a publicly traded company. I just think that like to even say that is realistic. It's not.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's look at the scale of realistic things he's been saying lately. I mean, $25,000 EV is actually kind of normal on the scale.
All right. Well, I'll watch for it. I will be ready around Christmas time to put my deposit down.
Yeah, I'll have it sitting outside your house.
Okay,
with the bow.
With the bow.
Yeah, with the comically
and just
large
be like,
bow.
Bam!
Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
Tesla's for everybody. Jeff.
Jeff, please weigh in on our debate.
I have a feeling you might be closer to Anna on this one, but gigacasting, revolutionary.
That's a word.
They stopped doing it.
For now.
Okay.
Wow. Do you think? I think you already know that you're bowing down to the AI robot overlords. Do you think like Elon Musk is going to be, the emperor, like ruling them or something? Is it going to be his brain? Is that why you're just
I think
all over this?
I mean, if all goes according to their plan, he's going to be overruling more than that.
Well, I'll say this for Elon Musk: when it comes to silly and pointless statements, he was on point.
Got him.
He is.
Got him.
He is. Yeah. He's stuck with what he knew there.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting to me is when he talks about these EVs not being realistic, and before he went into his diatribe and trying to compare them to horses, and horses being niche.
That was pretty good. I mean,
stop. We're not. No, we're not. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. No.
Horses, man.
But one of the things is it is probably ridiculous to say that we're going to have a $25,000 EV for the U.S. Mm-hmm. Okay? BYD is making electric vehicles in China that they are selling for well below that. Now, calling them a car is a little bit of a loose term, okay? They do have wheels and they do go forward and they do have a steering wheel, but they're not what we in the U.S. would probably refer to as a car.
Yeah, it's closer to
and if they tried to bring them here, they're going to cost more than $25,000 with tariffs and everything else. But what Elon Musk should also remember is that at least first one or two in terms of his markets is China. So potentially providing a lower cost option in China, the number one EV market in the world, that might not be silly and pointless, if you like making money in China. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of things to look at here. And getting back to the comment about the horses.
You said we were going to
I have to, because when he looks at the future of automobiles, there's no question it's electric and it's autonomous.
Yeah.
I think he is dramatically underestimating the fact that some people will always want to drive their car.
And that's what he's saying. Some people still like to ride horses. There's just fewer of them. That was what his comparison was. He's like, sure, we used to get around with horses and then there were cars. But you know what? Some people still took horses.
I just wish somebody could turn him off when he says, this is a silly and pointless concept for the U.S. market. But he should not discount this in other places. So for there, David, I would agree with you. If he comes out with this in China or in other markets, that would actually be pretty smart.
Yeah,
if he can make it happen.
If he can make it happen, that's the biggest issue here, right? Because
Well, and that's not what he was saying when he said that.
Right. He was. Yes. Well, I don't know if you guys had a chance to see the silly and pointless thing that he said today. Did anyone see his
Fast track.
Please.
So today at the 8th Future Investment Initiative Conference in Saudi Arabia, or sorry, not today, this week. Maybe it was Tuesday. He said that by 2040, in a mere 16 years, we'll still be quite youthful, there will be at least 10 billion humanoid robots, and they will be priced between $20,000 and $25,000. So maybe that's just it. He understands that our budgets are going to be different, and instead of buying a $25,000 EV, we're going to want a $25,000 humanoid robot, and they could carry us anywhere.
I would bet my life savings on that being incorrect.
Which, the 2040, you think maybe 2041?
10 billion humanoid robots.
Billion humanoid robots.
People are just clamoring for them.
Yes. This is closer and closer to the beginning of the Mitchells versus the Machines. Just saying.
It's because everybody thinks like Elon Musk, don't they?
More than we want.
Well, okay.
He's finding a like-minded audience.
Yeah.
But I was just, when you have a Google alert for Elon Musk, sometimes you just open up your email and you're like, I didn't even see that one coming. But,
yeah.
Sometimes the forward thinkers at the Future Investment Initiative Conference want to know, of course it's a robo piggyback ride. That's what I'm saying. That's how I'm getting to work.
10 billion robo piggyback rides.
In a short 16 years, as I am approaching my non-retirement, I will piggyback ride into the office. I'm going to need some sort of weird saddle. Better get working on that now.
David.
Just as likely. All right. Our top story. Sorry, I wanted to share that so I could see both of your eyes roll at the same time. And almost like on cue.
Synced up?
Yeah. Both in other directions, too. All right. Our most popular story this week. Report details cracked skulls and amputations at Rivian's Illinois plant. Last week, a Bloomberg report said Rivian received more serious safety violations since early 2023 than any other automaker. And let's remember that Rivian has just one single plant. Employees in Normal, Illinois have described amputations, broken bones, lacerations, a cracked skull, and one worker who claimed to have vomited, quote, Rivian blue after painting vehicles with no respirator. OSHA has cited Rivian for 16 serious safety violations over the past 21 months. Rivian fired back, saying Bloomberg, quote, misrepresented the facts. The company says many of the violations were initial and ultimately corrected, which means they were not filed as final serious citations. The company says they are, quote, continually improving processes and have not received any serious citations this year. They're doing better. OSHA often agrees to downgrade citations in order to avoid litigation and unresolved safety problems. However, these initial citations still tend to reveal a lot about workplace safety. OSHA did say that Rivian, quote, has improved their safety and health team and are very cooperative with the OSHA process. Anna, are you willing to give Rivian the benefit of the doubt here?
Oh, I mean, I've always been like rooting for RJ Scaringe and Rivian. I think they have a cool product. I think that they're doing it right, or I thought so. This is like a very alarming report to me. And Rivian really tried to put out this fire.
Yeah.
The Bloomberg report got a lot of attention when it first came out. It was widely reported. The company came out right away and said, wait, this isn't fair. As you alluded to, they said, we corrected those issues. They were not the final status of those citations. Okay, but Bloomberg, to their credit, I think said like, hold on, that may be the case, but these were not final. You had the right to cure. To their credit, they did that, but that doesn't take away from the fact that this stuff happened in the first place.
Correct.
And I think when it's pinpointed by a federal agency and they're fixing it under duress, you don't get a pat on the back for that, in my opinion. It's pretty inexcusable that someone is on an automotive paint line, and they are working with no respirator. That is like 101, right?
not just not working with one, but their request for one was denied.
And for multiple, days upon days until they were sick, you don't need OSHA to tell you that is not up to par. You know what I mean? That something is very wrong there if that's what you need to point that out to you. And so, of course, I'm glad that OSHA and Rivian were able to work together in a way that encourages them as the manufacturer to quickly remedy the issues versus petitioning to have the citation dropped or lowered or whatever. I get why they do that because it applies pressure to the company to fix it immediately versus like going down that other path. That's a good way to do it. But I don't think that Rivian gets to say that they're being mischaracterized because as the facts have been laid out here, they have made some serious mistakes, and those could have very easily resulted in fatalities or, amputations, cracked skull. I mean, that's a big deal. Yeah. So I just don't think that they should be running in and being like, hey, wait, no fair. We fixed all this. Like that. Those are massive problems to begin with.
Well, and if they want to say that they were mischaracterized because Bloomberg's headline was cracked skull, fractured bones show danger for Rivian factories workers, but they're trying to do better. I mean, I get that because sure, their efforts are a little bit below the fold, but there's a lot going on there. A lot of it's bad, but at least in their defense, and I'm not just giving out participation awards here, at least in their defense, it seems like they're actively working with OSHA. They're trying to do right.
I agree, and I'm glad that they are, but I also think that Bloomberg had every right to report that.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah, I take no issue with the report whatsoever.
People, I mean, it's okay that is, if people are viewing the safety incident as bad, that's because it was.
Yeah, and I mean, Jeff, it's almost Rivian's responsibility to be like, whoa, wait a minute. Try to put out a fire, try to put down some of those red flags and say, we're doing our best, but in an opportunity to use another Jeffism, making cars is hard, Jeff.
It is, but this isn't about making cars to me.
No.
Okay. What this is about is you've got the potential start of a bigger problem.
Yeah.
Okay. If you've been doing this, you haven't been doing this for decades.
Yeah.
Okay. You've been doing this for a couple of years. This is whenever we talk about these safety issues that permeate throughout these industrial organizations, this is how it starts.
Right.
And it builds and it builds and it gets worse and it gets worse to the point where basically you're just negotiating OSHA violations all the time and nothing actually happens. This is an opportunity for Rivian to be more proactive without necessarily being defensive. Embrace this. Say, you know what? We screwed up. Come back in here, Bloomberg. Look what we did. Look how we fixed this. Actually demonstrate the proactive things that you've done as opposed to just trying to deflect. This makes it look worse and it makes it feel like Rivian is doing what they have to do, not what they should be doing.
Yeah.
In terms of really addressing the problems. Again, I think you can be proactive without being defensive. When I was looking at this story, it really reminded me of something it was the motto of my unit in the reserve was mission first, people always.
Yeah.
So yes, you have a job to get done, but you can't do it without your people. Your people come first, you take care of them, and that's how you accomplish the mission. And it feels like that's what Rivian is missing here. They missed an opportunity. They missed an opportunity to take something that Bloomberg did, sort of gave them a black eye, and show them how they're better.
Yeah. And I mean, Rivian has been doing well. They have a good pedigree. And it kind of goes to show that it doesn't matter where you used to work, how you've always done things before. When you try doing it again, starting from scratch, you miss things.
Yeah.
Things go wrong. Rivian said, quote, "The health and safety of everyone at Rivian is our top priority, and we are proud of our strong safety record, which continues to improve year over year." Now, one thing that I wanted to point out is that for this report, Bloomberg asked Deborah Berkowitz, OSHA chief of staff under President Barack Obama, to review these records. And she was the one that said the volume of the complaints were, quote, all red flags. I think that gave it a little bit more credibility in terms of, no, you had the head of OSHA go through these reports and say, because sometimes I understand that, without some expertise there, some things might get lost in translation. But when you have the former chief of staff of OSHA say, these are all red flags, I think it's fair to say. Now, on this vomiting Rivian Blue, I wanted to go into that a little bit more because I found that, cracked skull, bad, yes. But I found this very, very troubling. So the worker asked a supervisor for a respirator, but was denied. The supervisor said they would be uncomfortable and hot, and instead suggested an N95 mask. Then she vomited blue, or her vomit had a bluish hue, and Rivian finally gave in. What kind of bugged me was that she filed a complaint with OSHA over this and multiple other things that she brought up. OSHA dismissed it because in the company's response, they said, quote, they found the allegations to be factually and legally incorrect. Like, do you need to save the blue vomit? Like, that's one thing that I don't understand. I mean, I get how forward-facing you want to put your best foot forward and say that you're doing everything in your power to fix it. But I mean, this one in particular could have, from the very first question, been solved for what's the difference between a respirator and an N95 mask. It's...
Well, and the problem there is you want to distinguish between that supervisor who said no and the company Rivian, but you can't.
Yeah.
They're the same in this context. And that is the issue, and that's, again, where this, not to keep beating on the same topic, but that's the culture element. That's where this starts at the top.
Well, and that's one thing that I understand, that with every story you wind up with outliers in terms of employees. But when it comes to safety, the amount, the spend to make this worker feel comfortable compared to the no, it just is so negligible. So negligible in big picture. It's very frustrating, very frustrating.
Well, the other thing we see with all these safety issues, too, is time. Time becomes a bigger issue. We know Rivian's behind in their production schedules, so you can see people cutting corners, potentially on a safety perspective, to get more product out the door, which is ridiculous, but it happens. Time
and people. This person wanted to work there, wanted to do the best, just wanted to be safe. And I understand that there are costs associated with everything, but when it comes to making your workers feel safe, I mean, that's a morale issue. And that's not just one worker. That is everyone on the line. Yep. All right. Well, before we jump into, in case you missed it, the stories that maybe weren't as popular on our websites, manufacturing.net, industrial equipment news, and food manufacturing, and industrial distribution, and design and development today. And there's a bunch of them. We have another word from our sponsor, Oracle NetSuite. This week's episode is sponsored by Oracle NetSuite. Going live with KPIs and turning those metrics into real results can be complex, confusing, and challenging. Fortunately, many of these issues have been encountered by others before, and practical solutions already exist. This new field guide outlines field-tested advice on selecting and tackling common performance measurement problems you will encounter, and it gives it to you in a simple, structured way. So download Maximizing Your KPI Results right now. There is a link in the live chat and a link below the video in the body copy, a link in the description. You can find links anywhere. Jeff, we talked about it a little bit last week, but this field guide is truly provides actionable insight for manufacturers.
Yeah, and I want to just say, whenever we talk about the sponsor, it sounds like we're doing some sort of promotional read. Being completely sincere, we go through a lot of these white papers and we do a lot of these promotional videos and stuff like that. They all have their value without a doubt. This one legitimately stuck out.
Yeah.
Because KPIs, it's kind of like safety. It can become sort of a white noise topic. Mm-hmm. This one did a great job of really going from the very origins all the way through to fulfillment and getting buy-in, and a lot of stuff that gets glossed over in terms of communicating and selecting the right KPIs and data and working through all that. It really legitimately did an awesome job in establishing all that. Whether you're looking to create KPIs, to reinforce the program, just kind of brush up what you're doing, it really checks a lot of boxes. So this one's on the list, highly recommended to check out.
No, agreed. This and that demystifying AI one that we read the other day. I mean, a lot of times we have to read these for editorial review. And every once in a while, you're like, whoa, this is good. Or you get an ebook, and then every once in a while, you're just like, what were we doing there?
Yeah.
Not everything passes the editorial guidelines, let's say, the nicest way possible. And now on to, in case you missed it, stories not as popular on our websites, but still stand to make a big impact on our industry going forward. Anna, what do you have for us for in case you missed it this week?
I selected a story titled Stellantis invests $29.5 million in wind tunnel technology to enhance EV aerodynamics. Stellantis unveiled its innovative, it's called moving ground plane technology. It was a $29.5 million investment at the company's R&D center in Auburn Hills. It's basically a giant wind tunnel, but upgraded. So it can measure and reduce airflow resistance from wheels and tires, which can account for up to 10% of total real world aerodynamic drag. And so basically, it's crazy, the technology. It kind of like lifts up, the vehicle in the air and mimics road condition, like in the air. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, but the article says that optimizing this aerodynamic efficiency is really crucial to extend the range on EVs. That said, this investment in the technology, according to Stellantis, will benefit all their brands regardless of where they're sold and how they're powered. So they're going to look at aerodynamic optimization for even gas vehicles. So I selected the story because last week we covered the news that Stellantis was going to be shuttering and selling proving grounds in Arizona. Mm-hmm. They insisted they had it covered through adjacencies and, redundant capabilities. I think there was some concern with that message and how that was going to be received in the market, or if it indicated some kind of deprioritization of R&D and testing. But I don't think so. I mean, I thought this was interesting to come on the heels of that, for them to come back out and say like, hey, because they've been putting out a lot of bad news recently. Not just, the things that they are announcing, but just the way they're being covered, union activity, these closures, things like that. Their CEO is kind of on an exit strategy at this point. And planned exit strategy. But things have been not going so hot. Their financials have been a wreck. So for them to come out and say like, hey, look, we're also doing this. Mm-hmm. We're investing money and making our vehicles better, more efficient, not just EVs, but everything. I thought that was interesting to see.
No, I was actually glad that you picked this story because I thought the same thing. Even in times of trouble, we've talked about it many times, companies that continue to invest in the R&D process. I understand that this was well underway if they're opening it now, but it goes to show that they still have a lot of skin in the game and they're still moving forward with new product development. I mean, talking about this platform, some of the things that are crazy about it, the measuring platform and turntable that are the heart of the equipment weighs 137 tons. It rests on a concrete foundation that is supported by a specially designed frame. The wind tunnel is capable of generating wind speeds of more than 160 miles per hour and has been in operation. This particular wind tunnel has been in operation since 2002. Incredible feat of engineering. Mm-hmm. Hopefully we see more of this from Stellantis. And let's not forget that with the story last week about the proving ground, Jeff's prediction that Tesla's going to buy it by the end of the year, I think, it was on the clock.
We have so many end of year predictions for Tesla. You guys, the clock is ticking.
That's right. Jeff, what did you think of this new wind tunnel for Stellantis?
I think it just, all the things you guys said, it kind of came to my mind too, especially with the proving ground story last week. I think the thing too is it just reinforces how much better we're potentially getting at simulating things. We don't need to have, 17-acre proving grounds anymore.
4,000 acres, I think
4,000.
It was. Yeah.
Okay, I was way off.
Big.
It was a big chunk of land there that they needed, and it was very expensive to operate. We can do that now in a wind tunnel and get the same data and the same results. And obviously, this helps also quell those ongoing concerns about EV range in terms of things that are being done to improve that. So checks a lot of boxes.
No, it does. And I was trying to pull up, 4,000 acre
I was off by a little bit.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. It's all right.
It's all right.
In case you missed it this week.
I'm not the math guy.
No, we all know who that is. It goes without saying.
Exactly.
In case you missed it this week was a story about Boeing potentially selling its entire space business to Blue Origin. According to the Wall Street Journal, Boeing's entire space division could be on the block. Now, a deal isn't close, but Boeing's new CEO, Kelly Ortberg, has been clear with his intentions to narrow the company's focus. While SpaceX has replaced Boeing as NASA's preferred partner, Blue Origin, the commercial space operation owned by Amazon's Jeff Bezos, could be a potential buyer. Boeing reportedly met with Blue Origin before Ortberg even came on board. The company is already priming. This is Blue Origin. They're already working on their new Glenn rockets to compete with SpaceX for upcoming missions for both NASA and other third-party satellite launch missions. According to Jalopnik, Ortberg confirmed Boeing's discussions with Blue Origin. Blue Origin already does some business with NASA. If you recall, they're already doing work with the Artemis lunar lander program. Another piece that could also be divested from Boeing is United Launch Alliance. That's a joint venture with Lockheed Martin that specializes on national security launches. That venture has actually already spent the last year looking for a buyer. I chose this story because while it didn't make the top 5, it kind of continued that thread in terms of just how lean and mean Boeing might get. And when you think about potential suitors, Blue Origin, in terms of deep pockets and just a brazen need to compete with Elon Musk, I mean, you could legitimately see this deal getting done. And I don't know if you had a chance to check out this story, but it could be a future in which Blue Origin and SpaceX are competing side by side because, you know, Blue Origin is kind of a third wheel in this whole, they've been focusing a little bit more on the space tourism side of the business. Well, not focusing. In my mind, that's what they're more known for. This could be kind of a game changer where if Blue Origin brings that in-house, really a big competitor for SpaceX.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, I don't see any reason why Boeing wouldn't want to proceed with this. I don't know if you guys followed the last contract that Boeing had with NASA and how that one went.
Oh, yeah.
It did not go well.
Well, you know.
Not great.
It was not great. So I don't see Boeing, I don't know. If they're looking to streamline, which they, you know, as you said, Kelly Ortberg had said that they will, that they need to get down focus. You know, maybe this is a potential culling area. I don't know. Well, and there's not that many players in the market that are going to be interested in this. So like the fact that they're in talks with Blue Origin, that doesn't really surprise me because there's like, you know, you can count on one hand the number of companies that would be interested in these assets. And maybe they could get a great deal for them because Boeing is not doing very well. Yeah. So why not? Why not hash it out?
I was surprised that the United Launch Alliance joint venture with Lockheed, I was surprised that that was already being shopped for the last year, though. Because I don't know if that's more of a, you know, hey, it's been great, but let's go our own separate ways, or the writing was already on the wall a year ago. That one stood out to me a little bit, too. But, Jeff, can you picture Jeff Bezos just clamoring to get his hands on the Starliner and just really get to compete with Musk on a commercial space venture that isn't just who can shoot the richest guy into space the fastest?
I think Jeff Bezos is a little bit more, I don't know if discipline's the right word, maybe than Elon Musk, but
I don't think that's a reach.
So I guess this one going through, again, we have as much insider information as the folks who propose this might happen. This doesn't seem like a great fit to me for some. I can't exactly align it. It just doesn't seem right. And I was shocked too with the ULA announcement. I would have thought that would be one that they would either hold on to or try to sell to Lockheed straight up,
or just spin off.
Or why would Lockheed wouldn't try to buy it? Maybe there's some weird discourse there as well. I don't know. This going to Blue Origin, I just think there would be a ton, and we've been in a situation too where we can see something that's very attractive to potentially acquire, but the overhead and the resources and the people and everything else that's attached to that make it really hard and really sticky. Obviously, these companies operate on a much different scale than we do, but I would think a lot of those things could get in the way of something like this. So I don't know. It just feels like a bigger swing. I would think one of those air defense companies would be a bigger, more interested party in something. But.
Okay. It was just... it was one of those stories that when it came out or started breaking, to me, it made a lot of sense.
It's very interesting to think about, and there's a lot of dots that can be connected here for sure.
But it also, to anyone else that is looking at any asset under that umbrella, make a call.
Seems like they're open, yeah.
Everything might be up for discussion. Jeff, what's your in case you missed it this week?
I picked a story. Federal government hands out $24 billion for 122 railroad projects nationwide. This one caught my attention because it feels like to me, since the strike of the rail workers, we're paying a lot more attention to our railways. This also comes on the heels of obviously the huge accident that took place in with Norfolk Southern in Ohio and all that. So it's good to see that there is infrastructure investment being made for a couple of reasons there. But the federal government's handing out $2.4 billion in railroad grants to help pay for 122 projects, with more than half of the money going to, I thought this part was interesting, to smaller railroads. The grants were announced by the Federal Railroad Administration for the projects across 41 states, and most of the money is going to go to track and bridge upgrades. Now, most of the time when we talk about federal money, for railroads, we're looking at Amtrak. That's always been sort of the history. That's not the case here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different bridges and crossings. It's going to be focused on safety as well, but also just laying down better track. There's a $600 million bridge that they're going to do, I believe it's in New Jersey, that's owned, I think, by CSX, one of the huge railroad operators. So for the government to come in and work with some of the local states and municipalities to reinforce railway infrastructure, to me, is very interesting. I don't think this happens without the realization that came about through the strikes and how that slowed down so many things that are so vital to our supply chain, whether it be raw products, consumables, chemicals, whatever the case is. We felt that, and it made us have a greater appreciation for what the railways do. And this is also coming up on a time when we're trying to reduce the amount of semis on the road. We have a driver shortage. It's harder for these long hauls to get products from point A to point B. We looked at that for a couple things coming out of the some of the big ports too. Trucks getting stuck. There just was no place for them to go. Too much traffic. So the railroads could potentially alleviate a lot of these concerns. This could really lead potentially to a revitalization of this mode of transport when it comes to cargo. When it comes to product. I don't know if we're going to get there with people necessarily, but it could. A lot of these tracks are used by Amtrak as well.
Yeah.
So the potential future impacts of sticking some money into this could be very real. That was very interesting.
Anna, what are your thoughts on, a substantial amount of money going into these rail projects?
Well, we talk about it anytime a bridge collapses, like where's the money for infrastructure, right?
Yeah.
The New Jersey bridge replacement that you just mentioned, that bridge was built in 1901.
Yeah.
So,
yep, could use some TLC.
Might bear another look and just see what we can do there. But yeah, I agree. I think that, we've talked about it in the past. It's one of those things that's incredibly important, but it's a little bit of a political football because it's not a very exciting way to spend money. And so everybody wants it dumb. No one wants to do it. So it's good to be seeing this stuff get done because, if you're going to try to rely on the rail companies to make these upgrades and replacements, that really takes some of the safety aspect out of the hands of the people in those areas. And so sometimes that means that the federal government has to step in and sort of play a role there.
Man, and if there's ever a time for the getting to be good on federal money, the election cycle, my goodness, fill out those grant applications, especially if you're in a state that's maybe on the line. I just wanted to add a note when I talked about that ULA deal. Apparently, they've been trying to shop that for a number of years. Oh, really? And as recently as August, they potentially had a sale to Sierra Space as to where that is. Not sure where that is yet, but that was a surprise to me. Just sent me that note. Well, before we get out of here this week, let's do our final thoughts. Anna, what's your final thought this week?
Going out of town this weekend with the kids. We're going to take them to a water park and have a nice long weekend. They've got some time off school. And then I look forward to celebrating the day where I stop getting 25 text messages from strangers.
Yep.
I think that's next week.
Yep.
So I'm pretty
next week sometime.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about that day.
Yeah. Also very excited for the second half of next week. Very excited. In keeping with that it is Halloween, I was kind of curious. I wanted to ask you guys, what would be the best manufacturing themed costume? Can you even think of one? Because I was trying to think of one, and I was like, maybe I could go as a Wellman Plastics worker from Roseanne. Just like I need a blue smock and like carry some plastic. And I mean, that'd be all right. But can you think of...
That's very niche, but I like it. Like if you had like the forks.
Yeah. Need the forks and like a plastic shield, something like that. Just make a Wellman Plastics logo to put on there.
What's wrong with Freddy Krueger?
I mean, is he manufacturing? Because he's making nightmares?
Well...
Well played, sir.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Freddy versus Jason has a really long like factory scene. The boiler room.
Oh,
Wasn't
okay.
that, like...
I mean, I was trying to think of, yes. I was just trying to think of something like a specific manufacturing themed one. But I like how you think manufacturing themed and you're like, well, Freddy Krueger, the boiler room.
He lived in there.
Yeah. No, I got you.
Okay.
Did he used to work there?
I don't know.
Is that why he's there?
I don't remember.
I can't remember. You see 14 of those things and you think something would stick.
I know.
Also, I wanted to ask, because I know this is the time of year where I always take a lot of candy shade.
You have earned that candy shade,
I think it's
my
come
friend.
full circle. But so I'm just going to really go for it. I think I'm going to go full-size candy bars this year. And
I'm coming to your house.
Please do, because God
like,
help me if any of those are left over.
For like karma reasons, you feel like you owe the universe after years and years.
You're not
going
to get like, when you say full-size candy bars,
just like
I don't know, maybe
big packs
are
of
you gonna get
Necco
like the
wafers.
Charleston Chews or something?
Yeah, it'll be Charleston Chews and paydays.
The movie theater box of Boston baked beans.
Yeah, Boston baked beans and giant York peppermint patties.
I love those actually.
Yeah, see, I mean, there'll be a little something for everybody there. But it's basically where just because of the years of Halloween candy shade, I'm like, you know what? I even thought about getting how you can get those 5-pound Hershey bars that you can break off into 5, sections. Just breaking those off for kids. Just like, here, you know what?
You're going to hand them like raw chocolate?
Of course. Just like, hold this. It better be gone before you get home.
You do not know how to do Halloween. I feel like you need an instructional video or something, or like...
No, because I enjoy more of the trick than the treat part of Halloween.
Clearly.
So, Jeff, what do you think of this idea? I was thinking about how I always
bad. It's a bad idea.
Just say no.
So always I take heat for getting the the Brax candy, the bulk candy.
Brock's.
Yeah, it's Brock's, and it's also terrible. So.
Leave my Brax candy alone.
You got some Capri Suns too?
Yeah, I'm gonna hand out Capri Suns and Brax candy for Halloween, all Hallows Eve. Just going straight northern Wisconsin. But so I'd have that in the traditional Halloween themed bucket. And then next to it, I want to take one of our Amazon boxes, write "do not look inside" on it, and then fill it with like great full-size candy bars and see how many last.
Put this guy behind bars.
Why would you do that?
I don't know, because I want to wash eggs off my house. I don't know. Do you think they're all gone?
No, because they're out with their parents.
Yeah.
They're not going to let
take them. There's enough parents out there that'll be like, it's open. Because I want to leave it open.
A lot of parents like you, Elon. Okay? There's just
Whoa. I'm not going to take comparisons on parenting with that one. All right. You know what? We'll workshop the idea. Do not look inside if you dare.
Is this where you find the workshop that finally agrees with you?
Yeah, so for all my like-minded people out there.
Yeah, go on Reddit, take it to Reddit and see what they think of your hammering apart a chocolate bar idea or whatever.
Yeah, for my like-minded person in the audience. Jeff, what's your final thought this week?
Well, I know we steer away from being too controversial, especially, with the elections coming up and all that, but I'm going to sort of buck that trend. And I really feel obligated, I feel very strongly to make a couple of endorsements.
Oh, God.
The first, if you don't have a Culver's near you, you should get one because of the Curter Burger.
You should get one.
Yeah.
I fully endorse the Curter Burger from Culver's. It is fantastic. It's worth any wait you have to go through to get it.
Buy the franchise. Is it still available? I know it was a short window.
I think it's like maybe it should be wrapping up here pretty quick, but I would fully endorse it. The other thing I would definitely put my stamp of approval on is the Chicken Big Mac.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Pretty darn
No
good.
onions on it, hopefully.
Pretty darn I risked it. It was pretty good. So I know we usually don't do that, but I'm going to put my stamp of approval.
Way to take a stand.
I know.
Do they give you
going out there?
Do you get a voted sticker when you get that chicken Big Mac? Like, I voted for the chicken Big Mac.
I am not afraid to stand up and stand behind my beliefs.
You know, the weirdest food item that I always wanted to try and I never did was when KFC did the sandwich, and instead of bread, it was 2 breaded chicken breasts or whatever. It was just...
Did not understand that.
No, but it was like chicken. It was like fried chicken, cheese, bacon, fried chicken, cheese, bacon, fried chicken. And I mean... If you scare me off as a consumer.
Yikes.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, before we get out of here, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You can also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach any of us at Jeff, David, or Anna at IEN.com with email the podcast in the subject line. You could also subscribe to our daily newsletter. Make sure you get it delivered to your inbox first, and subscribe to us on YouTube at IEN Magazine so you can join us live every Thursday and mix it up in the chat section. All right, for Jeff Ranke and Anna Wells, I'm David Manti. This is the Today in Manufacturing podcast, and we will see you next week.